Welcome back, everybody, for another deep dive. This is number 7. Can you believe it? It feels like just yesterday we were trying to figure out the whole global economy thing.
Yeah.
Even before that, we were talking about AI ethics.
It's amazing how many topics we get to explore.
I know, right? So today we're going to shift gears a little bit
Yeah.
to something that might seem a little less, you know, exciting at first.
Yeah.
But trust me, it's the stuff that makes the business world actually work. It's legislation.
Oh, okay.
We're talking about laws that you probably don't even think about, but they shape every single interaction that you have with businesses every day.
It's true. These laws, they're like the behind-the-scenes framework that ensures businesses are acting responsibly toward their employees and their customers.
Exactly. And so understanding this framework not only makes you like a smarter, business enthusiast or follower, it also makes you a better consumer.
Yeah, absolutely. When you understand these laws, you can make better choices and even assert your rights if you need to.
Okay, so we're going to dive into this huge ocean of laws. Where do we even begin?
Well, there are tons and tons of laws, but we can think about them in two big categories. The first is laws that relate to employees, making sure they're treated fairly and that they have safe working conditions.
Okay,
And then the second category is laws that protect consumers like you.
gotcha. Okay, so let's start with employee rights. Then I guess one of the first things you think about is the national minimum wage and the national living wage.
Right.
Are those the same thing?
So they're similar, but there's a key difference, and it all comes down to age. The national minimum wage applies to anyone under 23 years old and apprentices,
Okay.
whereas the national living wage kicks in at age 23 and older.
Wow.
So it's all about making sure that everyone who's working legally is earning at least a fair hourly rate.
Okay, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And then what about the Equality Act? I feel like I've heard that phrase a lot, but I'm not really sure what it means in practice.
Okay, so imagine a workplace where someone is getting paid less for doing the exact same job as their colleague just because of their gender or their race.
Oh, wow.
That's what the Equality Act is trying to prevent.
Okay.
It prohibits discrimination based on a whole bunch of protected characteristics.
So you're saying that equal pay for equal work is like a right, not just like a nice idea.
It is a right.
Wow.
The Equality Act makes it the law,
Yeah.
and it goes way beyond pay. It covers everything from hiring and promotions to training opportunities to even just the general workplace environment.
Wow, I had no idea it was that comprehensive.
It is.
So I'm assuming this must be kind of a big deal for businesses to navigate.
Definitely. It takes effort and resources. Businesses need to put policies in place, they need to train their employees, and they even have to think about shifting their workplace culture.
So it's not just about avoiding like a fine or getting in trouble. It's about actually changing the environment.
Yeah, it's about creating a workplace where everyone feels valued and respected.
That's a great point. So, but I'm guessing there's another side to this too. Like, doesn't all this compliance create extra costs for businesses and a ton of paperwork?
Oh, for sure. There are costs involved. But think about it this way. A company that fosters a culture of equality is more likely to attract and keep really talented employees.
Yeah.
And happy employees are usually productive employees.
Yeah, that's true.
Plus, avoiding lawsuits and damage to your reputation. That's really valuable.
That's a great point. So it's not just about avoiding penalties. It's about building a better business overall.
Exactly.
Okay. So let's shift gears a little bit and talk about health and safety. What are the big laws that businesses need to be aware of in that area?
So the big one in the UK is the Health and Safety at Work Act of 1974. And you can think of this law as a guardian angel for employees.
Okay.
It's designed to prevent accidents and injuries in the workplace.
Okay, so when we say health and safety, are we talking like hard hats and steel-toed boots kind of thing?
Well, it's more than just wearing the right gear. It's about businesses being proactive about safety.
All right.
They need to do things like risk assessments to figure out what hazards exist in their workplace, and they need to provide training to their staff. And then they also need to have procedures in place for emergencies.
So like fire drills and stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Things like that. Making sure exits are clearly marked and everyone knows what to do if something happens.
Gotcha. So it sounds like a lot of boxes to check. But I imagine there are benefits for businesses that go beyond just avoiding getting fined, right?
Absolutely. When you have fewer accidents, your insurance premiums go down, there's less downtime because people aren't getting hurt, and it just creates a more positive work environment.
Right.
When employees feel safe, they're going to be more engaged and productive.
Okay. So again, a win-win for the business and the employees.
Exactly.
Now, we've talked about laws that protect workers, but what about us? The people who are buying stuff and using services?
Yeah.
What laws protect us from, getting ripped off.
Yeah, that's where the Consumer Rights Act of 2015 comes in. You can think of this as your shield when you're making a purchase.
Okay.
It basically says that anything you buy has to be fit for its intended purpose.
Okay.
It has to match the description that the seller gave you.
Okay.
And it has to be of satisfactory quality.
Okay, so if I buy a blender and I get it home and it just like smokes and sputters instead of blending my smoothie, I'm not just stuck with it.
Nope. The Consumer Rights Act gives you the power to demand a repair, a replacement, or even a full refund if the product doesn't live up to the promises that were made.
So that's reassuring to know. It makes you feel like you actually have some power as a consumer.
Yeah, absolutely. It's about making sure businesses are being honest and transparent with their customers.
But I mean, isn't this a nightmare for businesses? Like, what if someone just decides they don't like something and tries to return it for no reason?
Well, there are systems in place to try and prevent abuse. But the main idea is that businesses can't just mislead customers or sell them things that are broken and expect to get away with it.
Right.
And honestly, it's in their best interest to get it right the first time.
How so?
Well, think about it. If you're a business that's known for having good quality products and great customer service, people are going to want to come back to you. Word of mouth is powerful, you know, and good reviews can really make or break a company.
That's true. So it's not just about like following the rules, it's about building a reputation for being trustworthy and reliable.
Exactly.
Okay, we've covered a lot of the basics here, but I'm curious to see how all of these laws actually play out in the real world. Can you give me an example?
Sure. So let's talk about Pret-A-Manger.
Go.
You might remember a few years ago, there was a really tragic case where a customer died from an allergic reaction to a product that didn't have clear labeling.
Yeah, I remember that. It was a big story.
Yeah, it was a devastating example of what can happen when businesses don't prioritize consumer safety.
So what happened after that? Did Pret just kind of try to sweep it under the rug?
No, not at all. They actually faced serious legal consequences and were under a lot of public scrutiny.
Right.
So in response, they completely overhauled their labeling practices. They made sure that all of their products had clear warnings about allergens.
Okay.
And they also did extensive staff training.
So they took this horrible tragedy and used it as an opportunity to actually improve their practices and rebuild trust with customers.
Exactly. It was a really hard lesson, but it highlighted how important it is for businesses to go beyond just the bare minimum when it comes to protecting consumers.
That's a powerful example. It shows that these laws have real-world consequences.
Definitely.
And businesses can't just ignore them.
Right.
Now, speaking of real-world examples, let's check in on our favorite fictional café, BrewBliss.
Oh, BrewBliss.
They seem to be popping up in a lot of our deep dives.
I know, right? What have they gotten themselves into now? Well, it's not quite a scandal this time.
Okay.
But it seems like they had a bit of a wake-up call recently when it came to health and safety.
Uh-oh. What happened?
So during a routine inspection, it was found that some of the employees weren't consistently wearing gloves and aprons when they were handling hot drinks or cleaning chemicals.
Oh, okay.
And, you know, hot liquids and chemicals can cause serious burns.
Yeah.
Even something that seems like a small lapse in safety procedures can end up having really big consequences.
That's true. So what did BrewBliss do?
Well, to their credit, they took action right away.
Okay, good.
They didn't try to downplay the issue or make excuses.
That's good.
They actually did a full risk assessment of their entire operation.
Wow.
They bought high-quality protective gear like gloves and aprons for all of their staff.
Nice.
And they even implemented mandatory health and safety training.
Wow. So they really went all out.
Yeah. And that training included first aid, which is super important.
That's great. I mean, it sounds like they really went above and beyond the bare minimum.
They did. And I think it shows a real commitment to employee well-being.
Yeah. I mean, it's not just about ticking boxes and avoiding fines, right?
It's about creating a work environment where people feel safe and valued.
And have you heard if they've seen any positive changes since implementing all of this?
Yeah, actually they have. They've seen a noticeable boost in employee morale.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Which makes sense, right? When employees feel like their employer cares about their safety, it builds trust and loyalty.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So it sounds like a win-win. A safer workplace leads to happier employees, which ultimately benefits the business.
Exactly. And it doesn't stop there. BrewBliss also realized they had some room for improvement when it came to consumer protection, particularly with allergen information.
Oh, interesting. What were they doing wrong?
Well, it wasn't that they were doing anything wrong necessarily. It's just that their existing labels weren't as comprehensive as they could be.
Okay.
And some customers were feeling a bit unsure about exactly what ingredients were in certain products.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, it's easy to forget how many people have food allergies these days.
It is. And food allergies can be really serious.
Oh, absolutely.
So BrewBliss decided to take a proactive approach.
What did they do?
They completely revamped their whole labeling system.
Wow.
So now all of their menus and packaging clearly list all potential allergens in plain language.
Oh, that's good.
And they even have these little information cards available for customers who want even more detailed ingredient breakdowns.
That's great. So they're really going the extra mile to make sure everyone feels safe and informed.
Yeah, exactly. It's all about transparency and putting the customer's needs first.
And I bet customers appreciate that.
Oh, definitely. Consumers these days, they really value businesses that are honest and upfront about what's in their products.
That's true. So it sounds like all of these changes that BrewBliss has made have not only made them more legally compliant,
Right.
but they've also helped them attract new customers and build stronger relationships with their existing ones.
Absolutely. It's almost like doing the right thing is good for business.
Imagine that. But it's not just about BrewBliss or Pret a Manger or any specific company.
Right.
Legislation plays a role in every single business transaction, even something as simple as buying a cup of coffee.
Oh, for sure. Think about the Weights and Measures Act.
Oh, yeah.
That ensures that when you order a latte, you're getting the right amount of coffee.
That's true. I'd be pretty upset if my latte was like half empty.
Exactly. Or those little stickers you see on fruits and vegetables at the grocery store.
Yeah.
Those are thanks to the labeling of food regulations, which require businesses to provide clear information about where the produce came from and what the quality is like.
Oh, interesting. I never really thought about that.
And let's not forget about all the online shopping we do.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
The electronic commerce regulations make sure that online stores have to give clear pricing information,
Right.
secure payment systems, and accurate product descriptions.
It's amazing when you start to really think about it.
Right.
Legislation is kind of like this invisible hand that's guiding every aspect of the business world.
It really is. From the products we buy to the jobs we have, it's all influenced by laws.
So it sounds like legislation isn't just about punishing businesses that do the wrong thing.
No, definitely not.
It's about creating a framework that protects everyone involved.
Exactly. It's about ensuring fair competition between businesses and protecting the rights of both employees and consumers.
So to bring it back to BrewBliss one last time, what's the big takeaway from their experience with all of this?
I think their story really shows that complying with these laws isn't just about avoiding penalties. It's about creating a better business overall,
Okay.
a more ethical business, and ultimately a more successful business.
So it's not a burden, it's an opportunity.
Exactly. BrewBliss has shown that doing the right thing is good for everyone involved.
That's a great message. And it's something we can all learn from, whether we're running a business or just buying a cup of coffee.
Absolutely. It's a good reminder that, sometimes facing those challenges can actually lead to positive change.
Right. So BrewBliss took a potential problem and turned it into like a positive transformation.
Exactly. And they're not the only ones.
Oh, really?
Lots of businesses are starting to realize that embracing these laws, like really going above and beyond just the minimum requirements, can actually have some pretty amazing results.
Interesting. Like what
Yeah.
kind of results?
Well, for example, some companies are offering way more generous parental leave policies than they're legally required to.
Okay.
They're giving employees extended paid time off
Wow.
and offering flexible work arrangements.
That's awesome.
And what's really interesting is that these companies are often the ones that report higher employee retention rates
Oh, that makes sense.
and increased productivity.
So treating your employees well actually leads to better business outcomes.
It seems that way.
Huh. Who knew? And is it just happening with employees, or are there other areas where businesses are going above and beyond?
Oh, absolutely. We're also seeing a big movement of companies embracing sustainable practices,
Right.
even when it's not legally required.
Like what kind of practice?
So things like reducing their carbon footprint,
Okay.
using materials that are ethically sourced, and giving back to their communities.
So they're not just focused on profits, they're thinking about the bigger picture.
Exactly. And consumers are starting to notice.
Oh, interesting.
They're actively choosing to support businesses that align with their values.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It's becoming a major factor in people's buying decisions.
So it sounds like doing the right thing legally and ethically isn't just a nice to have anymore.
It's not.
It's like essential for success.
Yeah, it's becoming a business imperative.
So it's about more than just following the rules.
Yeah.
It's about building trust with your employees,
Right.
attracting top talent,
Yeah.
and connecting with consumers who are more and more conscious of the choices they're making.
Absolutely. It's about creating the cycle where compliance and ethics and success all feed into each other.
That's a pretty cool idea.
Mhm.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into the world of legislation and business, what's the one thing you want our listeners to take away from all of this?
I think the key takeaway is that laws might seem kind of boring and abstract,
Yeah.
but they actually have a huge impact on our everyday lives,
Yeah.
both as employees and as consumers.
Yeah, for sure.
They shape the things we buy, the places we work, and the choices we make.
And as we've seen, embracing those laws and going beyond just the bare minimum can lead to some really positive changes.
Absolutely. It's about realizing that doing the right thing isn't just good ethics, it's good business.
That's a great point. So next time you're interacting with a business, whether you're shopping or working, take a minute to think about all the laws that are at play behind the scenes.
And remember that you have power as a consumer.
Right. We can choose to support businesses that are operating ethically and responsibly.
By making informed choices, we can all help create a more just and sustainable business world.
Couldn't have said it better myself. So on that note, a huge thank you to Google Notebook LM for its powerful AI assistance and audio dialogue. This episode was a PLC strategy production. Until next time, deep divers, stay curious.